Okay, so for context, guys, while I get this out, this is going to be the third time doing this. Obviously, to be fair, this is the first time that I'm going to be recording on Zoom with a screen share, so I think that's why it's got a little bit complicated. But I think I've worked it out this time. Um, for context as well, it is Friday the 13th, so it is it's lived up to its reputation. And it has given me all the problems on a Friday the 13th as it should. So let I pray to God. Pause. Stop. Okay, cool. So I'm pretty sure we are where we are. Third time lucky, right? So for context, today's Food Friday, and for those of you that don't know, anyone who is inside my coaching program has access to these calls that we do twice a week. If Friday is a food focus, and on Tuesday we do a Q&A, which is an opportunity to ask any questions that people may have or any struggles that they've had throughout the week that we can cover and go over together. Um, it cuts out all of the guesswork, which is why I'm here. That's what we do. And it makes the transition from whatever your goal is as smooth as possible. So, for anyone that's listening outside, if you want to learn more about joining the group, maybe you've got a goal that you want to achieve, you've been struggling alone, and you want to join the community and a coaching group where you get the accountability, you get the calls, all of the guesswork is hopefully cut out. Um, then head over to Instagram, Sean Kenny underscore, and drop me a DM. For anyone that's inside the group and you're listening to this, if you've got any questions, obviously chuck it into the group, message me privately, whatever is best for you, and we can talk about it. But so let's get on with today. So protein. So food focus Friday today. We're going to go over protein and hopefully we cover something that's a little bit different from the standard stuff. So protein, we all kind of know the basics of it, which we will go over, but hopefully we can go over something that's a little bit different, and you all learn something new. So first of all, what are the recommendations? By the way, because this is the third time I've managed to actually this time get myself a coffee because I was like, do you know what? I've lost it. Like it's gone. Like the whole like flow of it is gone, and we're just gonna roll with it, and we're just gonna show up, and we're gonna enjoy our coffee, and whatever it be, it be. Like the whole thing of trying to make it perfect and be professional is just gone now. So right. Right, general population is 0.8 grams of protein per kg of body weight a day. A lot of people would say, oh, that's not enough to build muscle. You would be surprised. General rule of thumb, you don't need that much protein. You really don't need a lot of protein to build muscle. And, I'm going to get shot down for this by so many people because, oh, that's not what the experts say, blah, blah, blah. Actually, if you listen to the right experts, they will say that. Um, it just depends who you're listening to and what research that they have read. I'm not saying I'm an expert. The most important thing with nutrition is that it's always evolving. And if at any point I'm wrong or science changes, then I'll go back and I will hold my hands up and I'll say that I was wrong. Because I always try and give the most relevant and most up-to-date information on these types of things. So, protein and building muscle, you don't need that much. What's important to remember is that eating extra protein is always going to be more calories. And we'll go over that a little bit later on anyways, but just remember that eating more protein is going to be eating more calories. And usually when you see people on high protein diets, it's because they've cut out carbohydrates or they've cut out their like energy intake. So just by eating more protein doesn't mean that it's going to magically turn into muscle. It's still going to be an excess of calories. So that was for the general population. Now what I want to do is break it down into individual sports because obviously this is going to be on Spotify as well. I'm going to read out some of the categories because we've got different people that are aiming towards different things, and it's nice to actually differentiate the difference between general population, athletes, sports, and building muscle. So at the top of the range, we've got our bodybuilders. Um, and I'll go over to why it's so high in a minute, because obviously that completely contradicts what I said, right? We don't need that much protein to build muscle, so why do they need so much? I said in a minute, but we may as well just cover it now. The reason that bodybuilders need so much is one, because it's actually a really underrated sport, and the actual energy expenditure that they go through is insane. These guys are waking up at like guys and girls. I'll just say guys as all genders. these guys go through so much work. They're doing their stairmasters for half an hour in the morning. They're then doing their workouts. You know, most of the time it's two workouts a day and cardio. Their energy expenditure is so high. A lot of these guys are, and when I say again, I just want to make it clear, when I say guys, I mean girls as well. Um, they're having like 3,500 calories, 4,000 calories a day, and they're just maintaining weight. So obviously their protein intake's gonna be higher because they're expending so much energy. So that's the reason why they need more protein than someone who doesn't expend that much energy. And that's why the ratios are different. So bodybuilders will need 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kg of body weight. Um, the examples that we have on the graph are just for 70 kg, like weighing. It doesn't make a difference for males or females. If you're 70 kg, then you just times it by 1.6 or 2.2, and that is your recommended intake for protein. Endurance sports and team sports, there's not a lot of difference for protein requirements. Where you will maybe see a difference is in carbohydrate consumption. But again, today is all about protein. So I'm going to try and stay away from the other macronutrients as much as possible. But endurance and team sports, 1.2 to 1.7 grams of protein per kg of body weight. What does that look like in real terms? Anywhere between 84 and 112 grams of protein a day for those sporting individuals. Um, the reason why they'll have a higher amount of intake is the same reason as bodybuilding. The energy expenditure is going to be a lot higher, so therefore they need more protein to get a balanced diet and to make sure that they get enough protein for recovery. You know, these guys are training 2, 3 times a week on top of the games that they play. So they're going to need that higher protein intake to be able to make sure that they can recover and perform at their best every single time. We've got strength and power sports. It ranges anywhere between 1.4 and 2. The only reason that is a little bit lower than you might expect is because, especially with strength sports, it's a lot more about your fats and carbohydrates. Typically, as you see, like a lot of powerlifters and that, of course they need protein, of course they need muscles, but the heavier they are, the more weight that they're going to be able to shift. Obviously, dependent on their sport, depending on what events they're doing. So, you know, the protein is still going to be required, but not as much as some of the others where you're looking at a more lean physique. And then recreational athletes, what is that? Pretty much, it says recreational athletes. This is kind of like your go to the gym, you do 3 hours of resistance training a week, maybe two cardio sessions, and you got your warm ups and cool downs. You get your 10,000 steps in a day. This is your average population that do more than the bare minimum for recommended exercise. So you're not just doing your 150 minutes, you're not walking, 5,000 steps a day. If you're someone that, going into the office, 5,000 steps a day, trust me, you don't need 1.2. You just stick to your 0.8. If you're doing a little bit more exercise than 1.2 grams per kg of body weight, it's fine. What does that look like? 56 to 80 grams of protein. Now, the question I always get asked is, okay, so I do work out. If you're listening to this call, then you probably do some sort of workout or some sort of activity, right? Which is why that this is sport focus. It's not just general population, which is also what I studied, by the way. So what I always get asked is, oh, if I don't eat, protein after my workout, then obviously I'm gonna faint and die and I'm gonna lose all my muscle. Completely not true. You've got 48 hours after a workout to get your protein intake in, get enough protein intake in for your muscles to recover. Um, and that's not me just chatting there. That is that is from studies. The window for muscle protein synthesis is long. So don't worry. The one thing I will say is that the body is very robust. We're not, we are humans. We do have needs and there are optimal feeding periods and windows. But we are very, very durable. We're not going to get, you know, blown over and killed by a gust of wind. Our bodies are very able to adapt. So if you're not able to have food after a workout and that, don't worry, don't panic. Sometimes we can get so obsessed with having to do everything perfect. But it's fine if you don't get that protein in because the window of opportunity is very, very large. Now, when we talk about optimal recovery, then it's a little bit different. Anywhere between, so I just say as a general rule of thumb, 20 to 30 grams of protein every 4 hours as like a feeding window is ideal. Obviously, that's going to increase depending on how much protein you need a day. And obviously, it says every 4 hours, but we're not talking about a 24-hour window of feeding. Obviously, you're going to be asleep, you're going to be at work, whatever. So, what I'd say is 3 meals a day, 20 grams of protein. Oh, and Lord and behold, you're at your 60 grams of protein for the everyday person that weighs 70 kg. Now, the reason I say post-workout, 0.25 grams of kg body weight every 4 hours, is because there was a study. So this study looked at athletes who consumed 20 grams of protein after workout and 40 grams of protein after workout. There was multiple studies done on this as well. I can leave links in descriptions, or if you're listening to it in the group, if you want to, then I can list those studies and I can send you links for those. And actually, there was no increased benefit for those who took 40 grams of protein as opposed to those who took 20. Now, the interesting difference is that obviously the group that took 20 grams of protein, the protein that they're taking is whey, which is a complete source of protein, very easy for the body to digest and, send and recover for muscle recovery. So it's a very efficient way of taking protein. So therefore, you probably wouldn't need a higher overall amount because every single bit of protein is going to the right places, which is now what we go into. And hopefully this is where we differentiate from the standard protein advice. And this is where I want to give a little bit more insight to protein. Um, which we will go on to after why we need protein. Sorry, I forgot the order of this. I was getting really into it. Okay, so now backtracking a little bit. Why do we even need protein? So that's how much protein we need. Why do we need it? So we kind of touched on it a little bit, but protein makes up a part of the structure of every cell and tissue in your body, including muscles, organs, tendons, that's internal organs, tendons, skin, hair, and nails. Protein is needed for the growth and formation of new tissue repair, and regulating metabolic pathways. What's also very important is that it will also be used as a fuel source when the carbohydrate availability is low during prolonged and high intensity exercises. So what that means is that our priority list for the body for fuel is going to be carbohydrates, protein, and then fats. So as soon as that carbohydrate availability is low after long prolonged intensity exercise, for 90% of you, you don't have to worry about this. It's anything probably way beyond an hour and a half of activity, intense activity, before you're probably low on carbohydrate stores. It will then start to use protein and lean muscle tissue as energy because fat is very long to break down. It takes a long time. It's not ideal for an energy source if you're exercising. So therefore, protein will be our second priority. And that's why I always say it's so important to have carbohydrates because if you don't have enough to fuel the body, then it will just start taking away from your protein and that potential for building muscle. So that doesn't mean that cardio and in high intensity exercise is going to kill your gains, but it does mean that if you're not having enough carbohydrates and you're not fueling the body enough, then it will start to eat away at the protein. So that is just a side note. Next one. Okay, so this is where we go into and we branch off from standard protein advice. We're going to go into amino acids. And I think this is really important. And I really want to talk about amino acids because you see it everywhere. You're walking down Tesco's, Asda, Sainsbury's, any type of shop or anything to do with the gym or working out. It's all about amino acids, BCAAs. You might have seen that rather than amino acids. What are they? So we have there's 20 types of amino acids. What are amino acids? So the easiest way for me to explain it is, let's say you've got chicken, you eat that chicken, it then gets broken down once it's in the body into amino acids. We have single and double linked chains of amino acids, which it gets broken down into. So imagine chicken breast, digestion, and then we get your amino acids, which is the protein from the chicken, and that goes into all the different parts of the body and where it needs to go. We have two types of amino acids. We have our group of non-essential amino acids, which can be made from the body, and other amino acids, carbohydrates and nitrogen. So our body actually forms the non-essential amino acids, which is why they're non-essential. The body does the work. And then we have our essential amino acids. So these are things that the body can't produce, and it needs to be supported from the diet. And you can very much get that from the diet. The reason that amino acids aren't spoken about as much because you are pretty much going to get all of your essential, like you're going to get your amino acids from your diet. It's going to be very rare that you don't get your amino acids from the diet. Um, but I feel like it's still important to go over because I always get questions about it, and it's just still good to know. And it's interesting. I think so, anyways. And if you don't think so, then you probably won't even be here up to this point, anyways. So shout out to you that have made it this far. So valine, leucine, and isoline make up a third of your muscle protein. So if you think that you've got 20 types of amino acids, and these three amino acids make up a third of your muscle protein, your muscles, then yeah, you can see why they're really important. So that they're kind of like your main three that you'll find in your BCAA supplements. They'll be shouted about any type of supplement or sports drink or anything that you get, they will be in there because they're so important for that muscle building and recovery and repair. Um, so they're like your main three of the essential amino acids that need to be supplemented slash you get from your diet. Now, this is the most important thing is that your body's requirement is for amino acids rather than just protein. So I know that there's a fine line here, right? So obviously, after a workout, you say, I need protein, I need protein, I need protein. Well, the body actually needs its demand for amino acids. So when we're looking at repair and recovery, pardon me, it's the valine, leucine, and isoleucine, um, not just protein. Now, obviously, again, it's just interest. It's important to know, but it's not essential because if you're having complete proteins, which is what we're going to go over, then you don't need to worry about all of the amino acids and the breakdowns. But again, I think it's interesting just to go over because again, like we know we need protein, but what I want to go over is something that's a little bit deeper, a little bit of what protein we need and why we need it. So, where can you get these proteins from? Again, back to the general advice. If your animal source of protein, chicken, beef, fish, eggs, dairy, again, we know all of this. But the plant-based soya is your highest standard of plant-based protein. Then obviously you've got things like beans, lentils, chickpeas, peanuts. You get protein from all of those. That's where you get your protein from. Now, this is what I want to go over, and this is what hopefully differentiates protein and protein. Because again, you get protein from those things, but this is what it actually looks like in terms of its bioavailability and what it's actually going to do for your recovery. So the DIAAS is pretty much the gold standard for assessing the amino acid like availability of a food. So why this is gold standard is because it also factors in the digestion and the availability once it's digested in the body, whereas some of the others won't consider that. So as you can see, all of the plant-based, and this isn't a bias, this isn't an agenda or anything like that, because I'm going to go over how you can not supplement the plant side so you do get complete protein. So it's not an agenda or anything like that against like plant stuff. It's just that it's simply not the most efficient fuel of like way of getting your protein source in. If you're plant-based, again, you don't have to feel isolated. You don't have to feel like you can't do it or it's not possible. It absolutely is, and we'll go over that in the next slide. But it's just good to be aware that you're not going to get your complete protein from plant-based foods. Soya, you will do, which is why it's like the absolute top level of plant foods, but all of the others you're going to have to mix and match. Animal sources of protein, however, 9.9 times out of 10, because I never want to say something's 100%, you're going to get all of your amino acids from. So again, if you're animal based, then you're going to get your protein. You're going to get your demand for amino acids, not just protein, from these types of products. So again, I'm just going to go over, so for those of you that are listening on Spotify or just listening to the audio, things like cow milk, eggs, beef, chicken breast, all the different types of milk, whether it's goat milk is actually the highest, sheep milk, and then obviously you see whey protein isolate there as number one, because it's going to have all of the essential amino acids. That's like very easy for the body to break down, and get into the right places. So that's why whey protein is so popular. That's why it's so important because it literally you get everything you need from it straight into the muscles, great for repair. Anything else that you kind of eat is going to have its drawbacks as well. So obviously, there's just a side note. Obviously, there's going to be some drawbacks from some of these foods, such as like beef. It's red meat. Maybe pork. It's got its drawbacks as well. So obviously, these foods have their drawbacks. But again, I'm just trying to stick to just protein, just talking about protein. Um, so then moving on to the next slide. So again, going over the plant stuff. So obviously, soya, although it is a complete, or pretty sure it's a complete protein, um, or very, very close to. You're going to get your amino acids from soya. Um, some of the others are just not up to standard. So like things like rice, which you still get protein from, by the way, guys. Um, your barley, your wheat. Beans aren't on there, but beans as well. You're going to have to do something about that if you are plant-based. So next slide. This is like one of my favorite graphs and tables. Um, because it highlights the importance of if you are plant-based or if you have more plant foods and you don't have any animal products. So vegetarians you'll find as well, because obviously you've got your eggs, you've got your milk. But if you don't have any animal products, then you're gonna have to be a little bit more diverse with your food and your food options. So for those of you that listen on Spotify, we've got food groups, the limiting amino acid, and then how you can supplement or complement that food group. So for example, foods like beans, grains, nuts, vegetables, and corn, they're all going to have their limiting amino acids. So, for example, for nuts and seeds, you've got lysine, which is a limiting amino acid. To complement that or to supplement that, you would then pair that up with legumes, lentils, peas. Did I say peas? Peas, lentils, and peanuts. So, pretty much what the idea of this is, and guys, this is over a 24-hour period as well. It doesn't have to be in the same meal. But it's better if it is in the same meal. But over a 24-hour period, as long as you're getting multiple different like categories of plant-based proteins, then more or less as a combined group, you'll then get your amino acids from that. Whereas if you're only someone that eats nuts and seeds, you're missing out those other like branch chain amino acids. And then that's when there's the limitations, and that's where we start to face some problems. So you need to make sure that you're being diverse. You're having a whole well-rounded plate of, like grains, legumes, peas, nuts and seeds. You've got like a well-rounded plate in front of you. Just so then all of those amino acids start to build up, and then you've got a complete source. So again, just going over that table and all of the different values is that obviously if again if you have your animal sources, if you eat animal products, then you're fine, you don't really have to worry about it. But it's just interesting for plant-based stuff. And guys, like I know that I probably went in to a lot of detail that's not relevant, or but you hear so much, and like a lot of protein advice is very standard. As long as you're eating, um 20 grams of protein 3 times a day. What does that look like? It looks like, 3 chicken breasts, um, or like a typical chicken breast will probably be about, I don't know, like 150 grams, which is probably about 30 grams of protein. If you're having two and a half, 3 chicken breasts a day, then you're kind of at your protein intake. Um, so a lot of the amino acids and stuff you don't have to worry about, but I just think it's something that's a little bit different. It's something a little bit more valuable, something that you might not have known before, which is the whole point of this call. All of the common sense stuff is out there. Hopefully this was a little bit deeper dive in. And if you have any questions on this, then please let me know. If you're from the coaching group, then obviously put it in the group chat. Maybe we can create a discussion around it, or you can message me privately. If you're watching this over on YouTube because you've requested the link on Instagram, or you just somehow stumbled across us, leave a comment, make sure you like the video and share it if you feel like someone could benefit from this. Head over to Instagram, Sean Kenny underscore, drop me a message if you have any questions. And yeah, let me know what you think. Obviously, inside this group, we do calls twice a week. We do Food Focus Friday, and we do Q&A on a Tuesday. So any questions or struggles that people have, we can go over. Again, the whole idea is to cut the guesswork out for you, so then that you can just crack on and focus on your goals as much as possible, to make it as easy as possible for you to see success. So the most important summary is that you don't really have to worry too much about your amino acids or the breakdown of amino acids. If you do have your animal products, but the body's requirement is for amino acids and not just protein. Um, it's the actual breakdown of the proteins that we need. If you're just a normal person that goes to the gym, you don't need that much protein. 80 grams of protein a day is probably going to be enough for you. Um, we don't need a lot to, activate muscle protein synthesis. And yeah, all that's going to do is just going to be a more expensive diet. Um, and again, eating more protein is eating more calories. So if you see high protein diets, that is usually because they've cut out another macronutrient like carbohydrates, which I don't recommend doing. But that is usually why you see high protein diets, and that's why people promote it and whatnot. Guys, again, if you have any questions, let me know. I'm going to wrap this one up. Hopefully, this was third time lucky and it's all gone smoothly. But yeah, I will see you next week for the next one. Thanks, guys.